So I made an art project not too long ago where I took some of the names of Allah and built them out of Lego. Now, if you want to just skip ahead and see the art project, you can go to the timestamp on the screen or use the chapters down in the description to skip ahead. But I'm going to talk about it just a little bit.
What is God? That's a big question. Probably too big for me at least. But it's a question that I get from friends and students all the time. According to Al-Fadl ibn al-Hasan al-Tabrisi, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir has said, Allah means the worshipped one, whose essence creatures are too mystified to perceive, and whose modality they are unable to fathom. God is simply too complicated to understand. God's not greater than we think, God's greater than we can think. But that hasn't stopped us from trying. For thousands of years, humans have tried to conceptualize the divine. Whether it's from idols or inscriptions, literature about gods interacting with people, or even Abrahamic scriptures, which are believed to be the words of God. In Islam, we have what are known as Asma ulHusna, or the 99 names of God. These are 97 attributes of the divine listed out in the Quran. Things like all-knowing, most exalted, ever-living. It's believed that these are attributes that the divine exhibits in their essence. God is not just the powerful, but is the essence of power itself. God is not kind in the same way that we are kind, but God defines what kindness is. God does not create the same way we create. I'll get to that in a bit. There are many interpretations and artistic renderings of these names, but what stands out to me are those that contradict each other.
There are more names that are ascribed to God that seem to be opposites. Right? The first and the last, the creator, the destroyer, the manifest, the hidden. So I just decided to go through the whole list and find all of the ones that are opposites, which is not too bad because usually they are in the same passage.
Within this list of names, I found 16 names, or 8 pairs of names that seem to contradict each other. The reason that these stand out to me is because, as Muslims, we believe Allahu Ahad, God is one. But how can one entity both exalt and demean? How can one entity be both the first and the last? In his book, Justice and Remembrance, Reza Shah Kazemi relates Imam Ali's explanation during the Battle of the Camel. The very first part of the Imam's reply contains a key to the understanding of his whole spiritual ethos. He refutes the notion of God's oneness being in any way a numerical or countable oneness. He tells the Bedouin that it is not permissible to say one while having in mind any numerical conception, for that which has no second does not enter the category of numbers.
This is a lenticular photograph. Basically, it's two images cut up into tiny little lines and then interlaced. And then a lens is put on top of it so that when you change the angle of the photo, you can see a different image. This technology, the lens part, is new, but the idea of splitting up two images and interlacing them together so that you see different things at different angles has been around for hundreds of years.
Paleolithic researcher Mark Azema wrote a paper in 2012 showing that cave paintings in France depicted layers of motion, and as torchlight flickered across the rough walls of a cave, it creates an illusion of movement. In the 16th century, we see references to Tabula Scalata, or ladder painting. These were paintings that were cut into strips and layered in a way where you could see one image looking at it from one angle and a different image from a different angle. So, if I want to convey two ideas in the same space, Tabula Scalata seems like the best way to do it. On December 13th, 1964, Maulana Hazri Imam said, "In the minds of some, there may be one day some confusion as to the meaning and necessity for faith. And if my spiritual children were ever to manage their lives in such a way as to come to believe that their minds create rather than having been created, and that their material comfort is such that spiritual humility is no longer warranted, I can tell you now that the true and real happiness, which I pray it should be your blessing to experience, will never touch your hearts. Our minds don't create. They were created.
But we do create, obviously, right? We create all the time. We create languages and technology and art and literature and ideas, and we share those ideas and we build on those ideas, right? We create all the time. That's what people do. Just by making this into a video for YouTube, I am going to be labeled as a content creator. When we create in our lives, we take pieces and we put them together. Just like Lego. We take pieces that are already made and we put them together. Now we can put them together in new ways. We can put them together in ways that maybe push the limits of how they fit together. But at the end of the day, we're just taking pieces and following the rules that they already have for assembly to put them together.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Doesn't that limit what's possible? If God is creating this system, he would be limiting his own creation. And to answer that, I'd say theoretically, yes, but practically, no. To illustrate that point, I want to show you one of my favorite Lego sets. This is one of my favorite Lego sets of all time. It's 6 identical 2x4 red bricks. Now, what's so significant about these 6 bricks? I'll let mathematician Soren Eilers explain.
My name is Soren Eilers. I'm a professor of mathematics.
Soren saw a display dedicated to the original patent filed by Ola's son, Gottfried. Gottfried was asked by the patent officer, how many ways can you put together 6 of these bricks?
And he says something like, we're still working on it, but when I left home, we had 102,981,000 or something like that. The correct number is quite a lot higher. The correct number is 915,103,765.
At the Lego house, they have a display for this, and each visitor gets their own combination. This is my combination. 439,516,717. It's not remarkable, it's not useful, but it's mine. And I can guarantee that no one else who's visited the Lego house will get this combination.
Every time people get in here, they always ask the same question, and that is, what are you going to do when you run out? And we actually found out that we have a guy who's trying to think about what we're going to do, but it'll be in around 3,000 years or something like that. Then we'll run out.
Like these structures, we are also made out of 6 individual pieces combined in different ways to create all the diversity in the universe around us. It's theorized that there are 6 flavors of quarks that combine to make subatomic particles, which further compound to make all known matter. They make the building blocks that 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 make everything. And this idea goes back farther than just Lego. Plato explained the idea that the whole universe is made out of tiny pieces, and that it's the way those pieces are configured that gives them use. And this idea was reiterated by those who inform Ismaili philosophy, like Ibn Sina and Nasir ad-Din. When we create, it's like creating with Lego. So when I was making this art piece, Lego was the obvious choice. So I used Lego pieces to combine opposite names of Allah in the same space. I started by laying out artboards on Adobe Illustrator, each the size of half of a Lego baseplate. Using CuvicScript, I transposed the names onto the artboards using a grid. Each square of the grid represents one stud on the baseboard. Once both names are written out, I slice them horizontally and interlace them. Then I can use the new image as instructions for building the piece. I use different shades of the colors to note which direction the pieces are facing. To build the piece, I used 10-inch base plates, which are 32 by 32 studs. For the words, I used 1024 Lego cheese slopes, 1 by 1 pieces with a 31-degree slope. intan, and black. Angling the sloped side, we can replicate the corrugated surface of the Tabula Scalata for a total of 8,192 pieces.
This art project got me thinking about morality. As we've seen so far, God embodies life and honor and creation, things that we consider to be good, but God also embodies destruction and death and dishonor, things that we consider to be bad. So how do we deal with this conflicting notion of God being both the essence of good and the essence of bad? I want to turn again to justice and remembrance and Imam Ali's explanation. In the Imam's spiritual vision of Tawhid, one perceives according to one's capacity an ultimate reality which not only has no second, but which also has no moral opposite. For the goodness that is proper to God is not the moral opposite of evil. Rather, it is situated on a different plane altogether, that of al-Haq, the absolutely real, the only opposite to which is unreality, or nothingness. In other words, goodness is identified in its essence with the Creator, while evil is a modality of the created. Goodness is opposable only by the appearance of evil, an appearance which is grasped as an illusion by the eye of the heart, that eye which truly sees God through the verities of faith. This vision of the relative reality of evil, far from engendering indifference towards it, greatly empowers the spiritual resolve to overcome it. For the moral effort to be good is intensified in the measure of the conviction of one's accountability to that goodness. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button below. I made another Lego art piece using Arabic calligraphy and its translation. You can find it right here or by searching on YouTube for Tabula Scalata. For some reason, I'm one of the few results that come up. If you want to learn more about my perspectives or ask me questions about spirituality and Ismailism, you can find me on Reddit r/Ismailis all the time. Thanks for spending some time here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.